Well, we're here at the FSPMA show. It's the first day of the conference. Everybody's walking through, and hey, two guys wanted to stop and talk. And I understand, gentlemen, you want to talk about cleaning something.
We sure do. Yeah, we clean stage drapery, theater drapes, large drapes, window drapes, hotel drapes. So any type of drapery we can handle usually.
Okay, so this is Zane
Neily.
And Brian? Brad. Okay, that's why we got, hey, we'll get it right. And it's on-site drapery services. Where are you out of?
So we're out of Florida, Texas, Chicago, basically North America. We're kind of spread out across the map so we can kind of get to wherever we need to be. We have a truck that drives right to your facility. We'll take everything down. We'll put them through our cleaning process, hang it all back up, and then we'll actually treat it with flame retardant as well. So we'll pass all the codes needed.
A lot of need for drapery. I mean, you know, hey, I know we talked beyond clean, but you know, Brad, I mean, how long has this been going on?
Well, drapes, people don't realize that these large drapes that are hanging in public facilities are large air filters, and they're constantly, there's air circulating through them, and so they're accumulating dust, and dust is highly flammable. And so what happens is, on average, about every 5 years, there's going to be so much dust embedded in that drape that it becomes flammable. And so that's really what drives our business, is the need to get the dust out of the drapes so that they're not combustible. So
even if they had the flame retardant to start with, it still?
Exactly, yeah. And that's what most people don't understand. Is kind of why we're here today. I'm presenting a session on stage drapery and the fire code. And it's because people don't understand, when they buy the drapes, they're told they're flame retardant. They assume that's a forever flame retardant. But once the accumulation of dust occurs in these drapes, they become highly flammable.
So the people selling the drapes don't actually tell them all this, right?
They tell them the opposite. They tell them you'll never have to do anything to them ever again,
right? now somebody wouldn't lie to us. No,
not a sales guy.
No, not this week. We're not going to talk about that, right? But I mean, that's why you're speaking at the conference and giving them. And you know, Mark was on earlier today, and he said education, and I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's part of the industry that nobody really knows about it. Like your first reaction was, who cleans drapes and why would they do that? Nobody really understands our little niche, but it's a very small piece of the market, but it's an important piece because in these schools, these drapes represent a large amount of combustible material in the school. And so if something does go wrong on a school stage, say in a high school, you've got hot stage lights, you've got kids with lighters, you've got sometimes uncontrolled access into the stage. So it's a place that the kids can go to and get away from the teachers, right? Yeah. And so that's a recipe for disaster. And so if one of those things should occur, that drape is going to combust entirely and potentially burn down the entire school.
Well, and that's probably why you do it on site too, because people don't have the resources to take those down and haul them and all that.
Definitely, and they want them back up as quick as possible, especially with some theaters. They have production going on, right? So they don't want any downtime. That's how they make their money. So we accommodate them and show up and take it down. We can usually get a whole large theater stage done within a day, maybe 2 days. And this way they're not shipping their drapes all around. It's right there and nice and easy for them.
So a theater stage, I'm thinking, so in a regular school district, there's that much of it?
Oh, sure. Almost every school has got a drape in the gym, you know, in the gymnasium. So even a elementary school is going to have a small stage.
Okay.
The high schools are going to have a much more substantial stage. Some of them are more specialized into theater arts than others, so they'll have a larger auditorium.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've been to a few where it's an auditorium. It's they have theatrical and it's almost the community.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Now you're just talking schools because that's where we're here this week, but you probably do a lot more than that.
Theaters is our biggest segment. So the large theaters that have drapes that are 40 feet tall.
Wow.
So those drapes are 400 to 500 pounds in weight. So, right?
I'm glad you guys are doing that.
So what people don't realize is that if the drapes that are hanging in the theater, most drapes, they've never seen liquid. They've never been pre-shrunk. They've never been washed. They've never gotten wet. And if you do get them wet, a 40-foot drape will shrink by 5%. So that's 2 feet. So it's now 2 feet too short.
Yeah. Now you're going to see everybody's feet when they walk across the stage. Yeah.
So it's ruined. And so our process uses powder. Actually, it's not a liquid process; it's a dry process. So we can guarantee not to shrink the drapes because.
And we didn't want to say dry cleaning because there's no such thing as.
No, it's not. We use it's a powder-based system, and so what happens is the drapes go into our drum, which is in the back of the truck. We're self-sufficient, so we don't need to plug into the school. We have our own power on board.
Right.
Drapes go in there with a handful of our proprietary powder. The drum itself will go 10 seconds in one direction and 10 seconds in the other to make sure to agitate the powder into the folds of the drapery, into the fabric fibers, and then we spin up a blower motor about 3,000 cubic feet per minute, which is about 100 times your average vacuum. We use air that comes through the door as the drapes tumble, and we pull all of the dust and the embedded soil out into a filter, which then we just dispose in the regular garbage.
Now, Brad seems to know all of that part of it, but Zane, you're just kind of sitting here letting him talk.
I have learned a lot. He's the owner of the company. He's treated me very well, and kind of learn from the best, obviously, right? So it's nice to hear him talk and see what other things that I'm missing in some of the stuff I say. So.
Okay, so you haven't been doing this very long?
About 2 years. I've been doing it for 2 years.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And so how long have you been doing this? I mean, what? I'm curious. It's a podcast, right?
Yeah. No, that's good.
What got you started in doing this? I mean, of all the things.
Yeah, that's a funny story. Yeah. So I bought the company 13 years ago from the guy who founded it. So he founded it in 1978. So it's been around for a long, long time. And I had exited my previous business and was sort of looking for my next thing to do. And I used to be in the technology business. And so when my attorney called me and said, he's come across this business, I need to look at it. And he told me he was drape cleaning, and I looked at the dog. I said, Phil, I don't know anything about drapes. He said, no, you've got to meet Glenn. And sure enough, I met Glenn, and what I learned was what Glenn had put together was just a fabulous package, and the market was not being serviced. And so
I mean, you really think about it. Who really goes out and makes a living, cleaning drapes?
Well, exactly. And that's why we love it.
And so somebody says, who's your competition? I have none.
Well, yeah, there are other guys out there, but it is kind of nice. You go to the typical cocktail party conversation, and you have conversations, and like somebody asked me, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" Well, I clean curtains, and be like, "How about those bucks last Sunday?" Right? I instantly changed the subject.
I get that. I spent 35 years selling toilet paper.
Right.
Yeah. What do you do? I sell toilet paper. I got a story for that one too, right? It is, and that's why we call the podcast Beyond Clean, because you wouldn't think of some of the things that we do in the cleaning business. You think of cleaning, you think of the janitor, doing their daily thing. I'm thinking drapes. How do you get down a 400-pound drape down off of it?
So depending on the stage or the height of the drapes, we'll use 16-foot ladders to get up there, or sometimes we'll just bring in a lift, a genie lift, and float it all the way up, and then just drop them.
Now, see, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking I'm going to have to have a motorized lift.
Yeah, usually when they're up around 400 or 500 pounds, it would be probably larger drapes, so we would be using a lift. And then we got some pretty strong tech. So
I'm thinking about, theaters. I went to a movie house here not too long ago, a little community theater here in Winter Garden,
You probably did that.
Yeah, we probably did that.
Yeah, sounds familiar. Yeah. So, and a lot of the large theaters, like the big auditoriums, they'll have what's called a fly system. So the drapes are hanging on a track that's on ropes, so they can drop the whole drape down to the floor level. And then we just take it off.
Yeah, but it's still, you're still talking about, that's going to take several people to haul it from the stage all out to the truck.
Sure, yeah. So the way
this truck has got to be huge.
It's a 5-ton. It's a big truck. So what happens is they will drop them right into a bin, like a very large bin with wheels. And so you don't actually have to pick them up. You just drop them right in the bin. And that bin will then wheel out to the loading dock where our truck is parked. And our truck has a ramp on it, so you just wheel the whole bin up into the truck.
He keeps saying truck, and I was thinking semi here.
Yeah, no, it's like a 5-ton size. It's like a Hino 26/8, so large delivery van basically.
So you're usually on site for a day or two, or
yeah, depending on the size of the stage, we can get like kind of a small school done in almost half a day. Then one of your larger, say, high schools probably take us a full day, a full 8-hour day to kind of do a couple different loads, and then hanging it back up. And when we hang them, we'll spray them, and then they just sit stagnant for about 24 hours, and then you're good to go. We give you a 5-year fire certificate.
So is this something you do on a yearly basis? You have to, or do you? Or I mean, I'm thinking, do you do a whole school at one time? You know, all of the different buildings, or are they on cycles?
Well, so we would do each stage would do at one time. We wouldn't do like part of the stage and then wait or whatever. But it's usually about a 5-year cycle. We say within 5 years you should be testing your drapes again for clean, and then the retreatment of the flame retardant.
So how do you test a drape? You keep saying test a drape. I'm thinking, wait a minute, test a drape. Yeah.
The NFPA, which is the National Fire Protection Association, that sets the fire code and the standards for flame testing. There's something called NFPA 705, and that's called the match flame test. And it's designed to do a test of a drape without burning the entire drape up, right?
Yeah, that's what I had in my mind. Yeah. You don't go take a lighter to it, you know.
So if you look on a lot of professionally made stage drapes will have a small flap sewn into the bottom, and that's meant for a guy like us to come and snip a piece off. And so we take a piece about the size of that, about 1 inch by 4 inches, suspend it from clips and put a match to it for 12 seconds. And it'll either burn, in which case it's a fail, or it'll self-extinguish. If it's self-extinguished, then it's a pass.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, you know, I've been on the cleaning side of it, you know, the actual environmental cleaning, and I'm thinking, you know, dust, people don't realize what's in dust. And here you are talking dust is your main culprit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's the dust that is flammable. Dust is highly flammable. So that's what we're removing with our blower system. It's going to push all the dust through that thick fabric.
We've seen a lot of IFR drapes come back to us that haven't been cleaned in over 10, 15 years, and they will fail instantly just because, again, it's a huge temperature, right? So.
And then what's happening too is that if you look at the other methods of cleaning, so we talked about wet cleaning. So wet cleaning is out because you're going to shrink the drape entirely. The other method would be to vacuum it. But if you can appreciate a drape that's 40 feet tall, 40 feet wide, and your vacuum head is this wide, right? You're up on a ladder.
Oh, yeah.
So what happens is if you don't perfectly get every streak to overlap to get all of the dust out, when you spray the flame retardant on it, you're going to see streaks
because it attaches differently.
Exactly, yeah, it's attaching to the dust. And then what will happen is if you don't remove the dust, then the flame retardant will stick to the dust, and the dust will just fall
off. Right.
So it's not effective. And so that the vacuuming method is commonly used, but is really not as effective. And again, our pull is 100 times a vacuum, so we're pulling much more dust.
Yeah, and anybody that's done vacuuming something like that, which I have done, you know, because I cleaned a lot of gymnasium, the overhead ventilation system, Raptors.
Yeah.
There's a lot of static in that.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. It's a process that doesn't work very well to vacuum them. If you think of it, there's so much square footage that it's just impractical to do an even job. And if you don't, again, then you're going to stain the drapes and really stain them permanently, such that those streaks may never come back out. So you've ruined a drape. And those drapes, you know, the price of our service is probably about 1/5 the cost of new drapes. So if we can clean them and retreat them, we're going to save this district a lot of money.
Yeah.
And those drapes, you know, a good set of stage drapes, they should last 25 years, but they need to be maintained like anything else.
Oh, no. And that's why your first year here at the plant managers.
This is our first time doing this show.
Well, I was postponed for 2 years.
Well, right. Yeah,
we're supposed to be here 3 years ago.
It's your first live one, right? Yeah. We're live face to face, right?
I think we did this one
virtually.
Oh, was it virtually?
Did we do this virtually when I first started?
Yeah, I might have done it before you showed up. But anyway, so.
Yeah, you can tell folks we're a little confused about what we've done the last couple of years.
yeah, exactly. It's all a blur.
But we do know that you're going to be live. You're going to be talking yet today then?
Yeah, 1 o'clock, 20 minutes.
Okay, well, I guess I better let you guys go. A little, where do we find you? What do we do?
So yeah, if you go right to our website, www.onsitedraperycleaners.com, you can fill out a form there, and we can get back to you with a quote.
Since 1978.
Exactly.
That's right. It's actually on-site drapery cleaner, no S.
Well, I'll get it right in show notes, guys.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
All right, great.